How's it?
I'll be basing my talk on the yearning for the redemption, for the final redemption, based on the writings of my father, the Rosh Yeshiva Shlita's teachers, Rab Dessler, Rab Moshe Schwab, Rab Chaim Friedlander. Those three, mainly Rab Dessler, who I would say revolutionized the way of thinking of the Yeshiva Bochrim of post-Holocaust, and inadvertently also, by doing that, I would say created the opportunity for the Tshuva movement to take place, and made a very interesting opening between many worlds of thought that didn't coincide with each other till then. For example, Rab Dessler used many Hasidic books to teach Musa, and used many Musa books to learn from it Hasidus. And he even infused Kabbalistic ideas in his world of thought. So, in a sense, Rab Dessler, who was in his active life initially was a pulpit rabbi in London, but began teaching British students Hashkafa, Jewish thought, thus bringing them closer to Yiddishkeit and to the Torah world. Later became a mashgiach of yeshivas Gateshead and Ponevezh, also brought to the Torah world an entire new world of thinking that wasn't known of before so much. And based on him, I will try and explain a few ideas to do with the Tzipiso Yeshua. One of the three things that the Gemara says when a person comes to Olam Habo, he will be asked three questions. Three things. Kovato itim la Torah, did you set aside permanent times for learning Torah? Number two, Nasoso, I think that's number two. That's number one. Nasoso Nasaso Be'amuno, did you handle in business or in your life with honesty? Were you an honest person? And number three, Tzipiso Yeshua, were you yearning for the final redemption, for the Geula? So we see how important it is to await the final revelation of Hashem in the world, to await the total reign of Hashem's kingship in this world. And that's what we are doing in these 3 weeks, culminating with Tisha B'Av. We are crying and mourning the loss of Hashem's glory in the temples, but also incorporated in that loss, we actually throw in that basket of loss, of crying for the loss of the temple, all the trials and tribulations of the Jewish people throughout the ages. There was a question after the Holocaust if to establish Yom HaShoah, a day of the Holocaust remembrance. And some rabbis, mainly that were affiliated with the Israeli rabbinate, official rabbinate, established a certain day, and they came to the Briskerov, who himself lost a wife and children in the Holocaust and lost his entire community, came to Israel as a broken man, but was a very big Talmud Chacham, one of the biggest Torah scholars of his day, Rav Soloveitchik of Brisk. They asked him, should we make a special day? And he said that after the Crusaders abolished and destroyed hundreds of Jewish communities in Europe, the remaining rabbis wanted to establish something in the memory, And what they did was they wrote kinot, they wrote certain kinnas, certain lamentations and eulogies in the memory of those communities, and incorporated them in the text of the kinot that we say on Tisha B'Av. They didn't create a separate day. And he actually brought the kinot and showed this rabbi how in this kinot, in the hymn of sadness, our sages of the time of, we're talking now of the grandchildren of Rashi, of those days. We're talking of the Balei Tosafot. That day and age, they wrote in the Kinah, and really we should have established a separate day, just like Tisha B'Av, for the Holocaust that befell German and Franco-German Jewry. But we didn't do it. It's all in the hymn, it says. We actually serving in it. What can you do? Anyway, so we find that the Tisha B'Av has in it, includes in it, all the Tzoros of Am Yisrael, also the Holocaust. And therefore in the yeshiva, the minhag here is that at the end of the conclusion of the kinot, we also say some for the Holocaust. Okay. So when we wait for the Geula, sometimes we say, what am I missing? Am I missing money, honor, tranquility? And if I come and say to a person, listen, I'll give you everything you need in your life. You'll have enough money, tranquility, Torah, good family, everything you want, all your needs. You won't be crying about Mashiach so much. That's the truth. I'm talking about myself. So, really, when we cry in this period of the year, we cry for the Geula, and we cry on the Beis Hamikdash that it was destroyed, we don't really feel the big need for the Beis Hamikdash. And that's the sad part of it. So we'd have to first develop a feeling of need in order to be able to eulogize the temple. The temple's missing. And that's why the Medrash says, he brings a Medrash, Yishlach Ezracha Mikodesh, we say it in Tehillim, in Psalm number 20. Lamnatzeach Ya'ancha Hashem biyom tzarai sagevcha, Yishlach Ezracha Mikodesh, u'mitzionis odeko. Hashem will send you His help from the holy, u'mitzionis odeko, and send you His support from Zion. And the Medrash says, Omar Ablevi, Kol toivois u'brochois v'nechomois shakadosh baruch hu asiliten l'Yisrael, ein yelo mitzion. All the goodness, the blessings, the comforts that Hashem will give Am Yisrael is only from Zion. Yeshua, how do we know that Yeshua is from Zion? Salvation. We say, Mi ten mitzion Yeshuat Israel. David HaMelech prays in Psalm number 134. It's towards the end of Tehillim. Mi ten mitzion, how will I get already from Zion Yeshuat Israel, the salvation of Am Yisrael? And bracha, and also we say also Yivarecha Hashem mitzion. Hashem will bless you from Zion. What do you mean He'll bless us from Zion? And the Medrash brings a long list of psukim. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. Everything's to do with the salvation. So what does it mean? How does this tie in with that all the brachos and the tovos and all the good things come from Zion? So he explains that we have to first put in ourselves, somehow instill in ourselves, that any bracha in the world, it looks material, it looks that everything's all right, but if it lacks that dimension, that spiritual dimension of the final redemption, it's not complete. And in a sense, our entire spiritual world is so lacking that we don't even feel its need. We don't even have that feeling that we need it. Because it says in the when Shlomo HaMelech built the Beis Hamikdash, it says all your prayers should come through this house. That means that's where we go to the Kotel. The Kotel is a remnant of the temple, and we say the Shekhinah is still there, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised David and Shlomo that all the prayers will be answered if he comes through this house. And which means that when we assess our situation, we have to first understand what we're waiting for, and understand that the complete spiritual situation of the world depends totally on the final redemption. Without it, it's not complete. In a sense also, the way some people view Eretz Yisrael, it lacks this dimension. We see it, especially with the Zionist movement. Large parts of the thinkers that established the Zionist movement believed it's a political solution, and the healthy state of the Jewish people is in its own national state, and in a sense that's identified as part of the Geula. And this is like there's a mashal given once of a person who had a massive estate with beautiful gardens and servants and gold and silver and everything, and a few generations later one of his old uncles was crying about this estate, and then he said, listen, you should be happy, you have the place. He says, you don't know what you're talking about. The physical piece of land is there, but how can you compare it to the palace, to the goods that we had then? And in a sense, when we cry for the Beis Hamikdash and we say, listen, we're in Eretz Yisrael, but it's not enough. So therefore, the way we view things make the whole difference. And how do we show that we are waiting for the Mashiach? How do we express our yearning for the final salvation, for the final redemption? It's through davening, through prayer. And we actually do incorporate in our prayers on a daily basis, 3 times a day, that we pray to Hashem that He shall return His Shekhinah to Tzion, He shall return His divine presence to dwell in this land. In benching we also say it. And we can say, listen, for 2,000 years the Jewish people have been praying. Where's it all gone to? What happened with it? And therefore, the answer is no prayer goes lost. No prayer of every Jew is unanswered, even if we don't see it. Chazal say that every generation that the Beis Hamikdash was not built in that generation, it's as if the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed in that generation. That means it's as if there was a Churban Bet HaMikdash right now. That means we are responsible. It's an amazing thing. The responsibility of the Churban is on every generation. Because if we would correct our ways or correct those reasons for the Churban, there wouldn't be a Churban, it would be built. And the question is, if in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when there were people so great, like in the time of the first Beis Hamikdash and the second Beis Hamikdash, in our generation, can we be how can we even talk about them? How can we succeed in a place where the early generation didn't? So, and all the more so that Chazal say in the end of Masechet Sotah, in the Mishnah, that before Mashiach comes, the generations will be even lower. Chutz b'yazgi, bas kama b'imo, there's a whole list of things, of all sorts of character traits that characterize the generation before the Geula. Then those things are worse. That means there's a Yeridat Hadorot, there's some kind of deterioration in the generations. All the more so the question arises that if the Beis HaMikdash wasn't built or was destroyed in the time of the Tanoim or the Anshe Knesses HaGdoilo, the Nevi'im, so in our generation can be built, how can we be even blamed for not having the Beis HaMikdash built in our generation? So we have to first understand that Kol HaGodol Mechaber Yitzir Godol Yemenu. We believe that the greater a person is, Yetzer Hara is also greater. For example, today, the attractiveness of worshipping idols is nowhere close to the way it was in the time of the Nevi'im, time of the prophets. Then the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah, the evil inclination to worship idols, was so strong. One of the Amoraim says, if I would live then, I would be running after idols like crazy. One of the Amoraim said this. We don't even understand that Yetzer Hara, how strong it was. So certain Yetzer Haras...
Maybe it's like money. Maybe it's equivalent to money.
It could be, I don't know. Could be. But that's what the Chazal say. That the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah in time of the Nevi'im was unbelievable. That's why we see in the Tanakh, in the time of the Tanakh, many kings couldn't withhold the yearning to fulfill that that temptation of worshipping idols. So, and in a sense, we see also the Jewish people. Chazal say this also in some places, how the nisyonos, the challenges that sometimes face Jews, and even from Jews, is sometimes greater than a normal non-Jew. Yeah, we have, the Jewish people have many, I don't know if we can say this I don't know if it's to do with genes, it's to do with the Kedusha. If a Yid gets a certain holiness, and obviously when a Yid gets that holiness, the tumor, the impurity tries to catch on, because the world is made in a balanced way. That balance has to be always that if there's a very lot of holiness, there's also a lot of impurity trying to get hold of the holiness and get rid of it. That's the evil and the good in the world. That's the whole idea of the tikkun of this world, that we have to try and overcome our temptations. And the tumah, the impurity, is always on the outlook, on the go, to try and capture and bring down the holiness. Therefore, when someone's very holy, his Yetzer Hara is much higher, much stronger. You can't compare it. Yeah? And therefore, I'll just one point. Therefore, when there's laws of impurity of a dead body, there are differences between a Jewish dead body and a non-Jewish dead body. When a Jew, his neshama leaves his body, it's the highest level of tum'ah. Because the minute the neshama of the holiness goes out from the body, all the, what's called in Kabbalah the chitzonim, all those forces of impurity quickly grab hold of the... But when a person didn't have that Kedushas Yisrael, the holiness of the Yid, so when he passes away, okay, the impure forces don't try and capture hold of the body, and therefore there isn't the tumor at the same level of a Jew. Yes?
It's a question. I just wanted to say, my Chavruta, when he used to be my Chavruta, he lived in Holland for I think it was 2 years.
Yeah.
And he used to, when he was there, he used to be one of the witnesses for somebody who went to the mikveh, a ger or a georet went to the geor. And he told me once, this is what he told me, he said he took this georet and you know, she went into the mikveh, she came out of the mikveh, and the rabbis asked her, what's it feel like now to be Jewish? And you know what she said? I feel the Yetzer Hara. She never felt it before in her life. Yeah. And that's what he told me, that's what she said.
I see it in my shul in Germany, that there's quite a trend in Germany of gerus. We're trying somehow to not combat, but trying to put it in some, it's a big trend. And I have many non-Jews coming to shul. Some want to become Jewish, some just want to be part of the service even if they're not Jewish. and halachically it's allowed. A non-Jew can come to shul, there's no problem with it, can even daven.
You can't put on tefillin.
You can't put on tefillin. And after some, and there's one, and there's another Rav with me, and he came to shul and then sees, and now the non-Jews never ever say a word in shul, they stand still. And the Jews sometimes, he says a word in shul, shouldn't be talking in shul. But there was one person who the other Rav saw him talking, he says, tell me, he's already Jewish? He says, yes. He says, now I understand. Before he was a Yid, he comes to synagogue like this. He looks in the siddur, doesn't say a word. He's already a Yid, he's already talking, davening, ready to do Averos. So the Yetzer Hara is there. It's a big Avera. To talk in davening is one of the biggest Averos. To talk in shul in davening is a big Avera. Very big sin. But he's already a Yid, the Yetzer Hara is there already. It's a sour joke, but it has in it some truth. And I think you're right. So the truth is that the Godel Mechaberoi, because when a person becoming big, becoming very holy, means it's not so natural. It means, in a sense, fighting against your natural desires, your natural being, your natural character traits. And when you fight against that, obviously, the Yetzer Hara is always in a constant battle. There's a constant battle there. And in a sense, one of the...
I thought a tzaddik doesn't have a Yetzer Hara.
Who?
I thought a tzaddik doesn't have a Yetzer Hara.
No, it's only a malach doesn't have a Yetzer Hara. Every tzaddik has a Yetzer Hara, and therefore there is no such a thing as a tzaddik that never did any sins. It doesn't exist.
Can the Yetzer Hara be changed into holiness, or is it always impure?
That's part of the job of a tzaddik, to work on himself. But obviously, as Chazal say, when a person's on a tzaddik, his Yetzer Hara is also on different things. Yeah, it's not on the same. It's not, I'd love a good piece of pork. I don't think a tzaddik has that Yetzer Hara.
Tzaddik has got a different take on it.
Tzaddik Gadol Tzaddik Gadol hasn't he completely conquered his...
That's according to Tanya.
I don't know.
Tanya's got a different take on it.
Could be. Anyway, so in the early generations, the Yetzer Hara was sometimes spiritual Yetzer Hara. Yeah? Idol worshipping. It's a spiritual Yetzer Hara. Becoming a philosopher, a Greek philosopher, Haskalah, all these things. In our generation, it's simple things. It's better food, it's women, it's certain things that are, in those days, big people didn't have that Yetzer Hara as much. And today it's more simple, physical inclinations and pursuits. And maybe, and this could be even said, that maybe today's Yetzer Hara, money and these things, it might be easier to conquer even. A Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah is very hard to conquer. If a big philosopher, a big tzaddik, a novi, a melech, has Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah, or of Greek philosophy, I don't know what, to be apikoros, it's very, very difficult to fight it. But if a person has Yetzer Hara for a nicer ice cream, maybe it's possible to fight it. A bit more, another $1 million, it might be easier to fight it. So maybe that's the pshat, that in our generation, because the Yetzer Hara is so, I would say, so not gentle, it's so rough and simple, simplistic and materialistic. It's so overt and so obvious. It's easier to conquer. When the Yetzer Hara is very subtle and it's spiritual and it's to do with your outlook, with your philosophy, with your belief in Hashem and how it's defined, that's a very hard Yetzer Hara. That's impossible almost. But if it's to do with very, very simple things and physical things, it could be that is an easier type of Yetzer Hara to conquer. And therefore maybe that's the pshat in one Chazal that says that before Mashiach comes, the Yetzer Haras will be very, very simple. Yeah? Being chutzpahdik, being very fresh against your mother, or very, okay. You work on yourself to act nicer, to talk nicer. And
Before
therefore,
the Yetzer Hara was...
sorry?
Before the Yetzer
It was
Hara
more things, the spiritual, lofty things,
It was like
ideas,
intellectual.
intellectual, yeah. spiritual, intellectual. How to avodas Hashem, how to worship Hashem. Yeah. These are things that we don't even understand what the Yitzhar is. What's the Yitzhar of Egel Azov? What's the big Yitzhar there? To bow down to a golden calf. We don't even understand what the Yitzhar is. And if we learn Chazal, what the Yitzhar, how deep and how strong, you couldn't fight such a Yitzhar almost. We don't understand it. We're so far away from those generations that we don't even understand what the Yitzhar, what it's all about. So that in itself is a bit of a nechama. Now, some kind of comfort. One of the things in Yishayahu, the Novi Yishayahu, in the psukim, in the verses in Isaiah 29, about the Churban, talks about Yan ki niga sha'om hazeh befiv ubisfosov kibduni. The mashgichim in yeshivas used to use this a very lot in the Musa movement. Ki niga sha'om hazeh befiv ubisfosov kibduni v'libi rochak mimeni. Because this nation would come to me with his mouth and lips honoring me, but his heart is far away from me. Vatihir osom oisi mitzvahs anoshim ulumodo. And the fear of this nation to me was out of rote. Lochein, therefore, says Yishayahu, Hineni Yosef la'afli samaz aflo v'ofele. I will continue to punish this nation in a very supernatural way. V'ovdo chochmas chachomo, the wisdom of its wise will be lost. Ubinas nevonot tistato in Isaiah 29, verse 13-14. And this three-letter term, mitzvat anashim melumad, this I heard hundreds of times in yeshiva, from the mashgiach, from Rav Volba I heard it, from other mashgichim. The Musa movement, I would say that Rabbi Sol Salanta, one of the foundations of the Musa movement, founded by Rabbi Sol Salanta in Lithuania in the mid-19th century, this word was the buzzword of the Musa movement. Mitzvah sanoshim ulumodo, to serve Hashem and learn Torah by rote. Actually, the idea of the Musa movement was to rejuvenate, to bring some life into the religious world of religious Jews. Because the non-religious, he tried. Rabbi Sol Santa did try and do things of Kiruv. He went to Germany, to France, and he lived in Paris, in Königsberg, in Berlin. For many years of his life, he actually dedicated to the Kiruv work. But when he came back to Lithuania and Russia, his work was mainly with the Frum world, to try and instill some kind of renaissance, spiritual renaissance, in the world of the Frum people. And this posuk was used very, very frequently. Mitzvat anashim ulumodo, to do mitzvahs by rote. And Rabbeinu Yonah says, why was Am Yisrael punished so severely just for doing mitzvahs by rote? So what? So I put tefillin on every morning, I go to shul, I daven, I learn, I listen to a shiur, I go to work, come home, eat supper, go to sleep. What's so bad? Why is it such a terrible thing to live a religious life by rote? That Rabbeinu Yonah asks. Rabbeinu Yonah says, the punishment was to the Jewish people, the Churban, those people that do not have any moments of retrospection, that don't retrospect, to contemplate in Yiras Hashem. If a person doesn't set aside a time of retrospection, he is punished very severely. And Rabbeinu Yonah says this, Rabbeinu Yonah from Girona, in his book Sharei Tshuva. Many people think that the main loss of Olam Habo, that means the main punishment of a Yid, of a Jew, is when he does Averos. We do terrible things, Chilul Shabbos, eat non-kosher, marry the wrong woman, all sorts of Averos that people do. But if a person, his mitzvahs aren't done in a higher level, that's not such a big Avera. Look, I kept Shabbos, I put tefillin on, I take a lulav on Sukkot, I eat matzah on Pesach, I eat latkes on Chanukah, I eat gefilte fish. Oh, what's the big deal? I'm a Yid, I'm a Jew. What do you want from my life? It says, Yiras Shomayim, the fear of Hashem, that is based on rote. That means it doesn't say they weren't Yiras Shomayim. It doesn't say they didn't have fear of Hashem. It says that the fear of Hashem was based on rote. And there is such a thing. It's not that you're not God-fearing. You are. But it's based on rote. You're doing it by rote. You're not doing it with any thinking, by habit. It's all done. You grew up from. And this Musa is mainly by people who are from birth. The person is Baal Tshuva. He's already put himself in a higher level. He's already in the level of doing things out of recognition, out of acknowledgement. But I grew up from. So I put tefillin on every morning. I'm used to it my whole life. I say Kriyas Shema at night and in the morning for 50 years. Okay. 50 years, 3 times a day. I do that, Shmona Esrei. So this Musa is mainly for me. But people that weren't born from, for them, they're already on a higher level. They already have that, I would say, that consciousness. The whole Yiddishkeit is based on consciousness. The Yiras Shomayim is based on the conscience. Because they took that step in their own lives to change their ways and keep mitzvahs and adopt by conscious, by doing it as a mature person, doing mitzvahs. So this is less a musa for someone who, but I'm saying, but even a person who became frum shouldn't lose, not my father always says, shouldn't lose that touch of doing it by consciousness, because this is the whole basis of what serving Hashem means, Yiras Shomayim. And he goes on to this posuk and he explains it. And Rabbi Sol Salanta has a whole letter about it also. And the only way to, I think it's, my time's over.
Half an hour.
It's still 10:30? Okay, very good, excellent. So Rabbi Sol Salanta said that the only way for a person to work on his midas, on his bad character traits, is by thinking about it. Simple, being conscious. If you're conscious, if you think about things, you contemplate it, you will be able to change. So this whole idea of using your mind over your religion, over your Yiras Shomayim, over your midas, that's something the Musa movement developed. Rabbi Sol Salanta was the person, because some people say, what do you mean? What did Rabbi Sol Salanta teach that we didn't know of before? Till the 19th century. We knew, what do you mean? We knew you have to keep Torah, keep mitzvahs, learn Torah, daven b'kavona. Work on it.
He noticed people were doing it.
No, he brought in something, I would say even from modern psychology. He brought this idea of consciousness. That the person has certain things in his deep subconscious and the normal conscience. And the only way to affect your conscience is by doing things with your subconscious, and that will affect your conscience. The other way people think. He calls it, he gives it a different name. He calls it the pale powers and the dark. That means the pale, the whiter or more pale powers of the mind, and the darker ones, the more obvious ones. And how do you affect your pale conscience, your subconscious? Very simple. He gave all tricks. If you take one ma'amar chazal, let's say a person has a problem with bad temper. He loses his temper. What can you do about it? What would you say? How can you change your temper? You're born with it.
Get people.
Born to kill. What are you supposed to do about it? Yeah.
You live with a person that's born to love.
Very good, that's one way. And they'll be fighting all day, yes? It's a good ingredient for a good fight. So Reb Sol Salanta had something, he says that Chazal said, but I don't think people were aware of it. In order to the awareness, first of all you have to create awareness. You have to learn the halachas of getting angry and not getting angry. When are you allowed to get angry? Like when can you speak Lashon Hara and when not?
When you count up to 100.
No.
No, that's
When you
okay.
see
That's
when you're sure someone's making an avera,
yeah.
you're allowed to be angry on the outside.
Someone speaking against
Or
God.
children, you're allowed to be
But
angry
if
on
a
the
person
outside.
has a nature of getting angry, he thinks he's getting angry only for the mitzvah, but really he's using an opportunity to let his
the
anger go.
The
in
Rambam
mitzvahs.
says those extremists must go the other way.
Oh, that very good, very good. Now what happens is usually people that have bad character traits, they think they're perfect people. What do you mean? I get angry only when someone does Avera, as you said. How do I know that it's not really my bad character traits coming out? Very simple. I have to work on myself. How do you work on yourself? You change your character trait. How do you change? You can't change. It's very hard. The Vilna Gaon says to change one character trait is a lifetime. But how do you try and do it? By creating an awareness and then affecting your subconscious. How do you do it? By taking Ma'amorei Chazal. We're talking here of people who are from, who believe in Chazal, who believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Take a Ma'amor Chazal. Let's say you say, Kol HaKoyes Ki'ilu Oved Avodah Zorah. Chazal say if you lose your temper, it's as if you're worshipping idols. And you take that Ma'amor Chazal and repeat it over and over again and again for thousands of times. And that affects your subconscious. And then, indirectly, it'll affect your conscious.
But hold on, I have a question. There's
Just I'll just explain the last word. Why does he say that you should affect your subconscious and not your conscious directly? The minute you try and affect your conscience, Yetzirah comes up and says, what are you talking about? I'm a good person. I lose my temper, I never do. I want covered, I'm looking for covered, I'm a Balgaiva. No, I don't want any gaiva. I'm an honor, I'm a humble man. I'm not looking for honor. But your subconscious isn't part of that fight with the Yetzirah. It's so deep in you, you're not aware of it. So if you take Ma'amorei Chazal and repeat them, and Rabbi Saltzman says with a strong, with a sad voice, with a nigun, and loud, until it goes into your subconscious, and then it'll affect your conscious. Yes, what do you say?
So it says in Pirkei Avos that the left hand is the sign of justice, and the right hand is a sign of merciful and compassion. So in life, there are people that are very, very strict, very stern, and there are others that are very loving, welcoming, to the degree where it's a religion. There's some religions that promote and teach love unconditionally, but that's avodah zarah itself, just as much as anger and strength and justice is avodah zarah if somebody goes to it. So where's the balance? How does one?
That's why, for the very, very reason that you said now, Reb Sol Salanta lived in Lithuania in the 19th century, and one of the first Sforim the Chofetz Chaim wrote was the book called Chofetz Chaim, hence his name Chofetz Chaim, published for the first time in 1876, I think, 1873. 1873. He was then a young man, and when Reb Sol Salanta saw the Sefer, he said, "This is what I meant. In my whole movement of Musa, I meant this book. That's what I meant." This person understood what I was talking about. Why? Because when Reb Sol Salanta set his target in improving people's behavior and character traits, your question came up. Where's the border? I have to work on my kas. No kas. Kas is a middle that's there. Love. No anger. No hatred. No. We have boundaries. We have borders. Our borders are the Torah. So in order, for example, we have in Shulchan Aruch a section called Choshen Mishpat. Now, if there would be such a thing as unconditional love and giving, you wouldn't need that part in Shulchan Aruch. Part number 4 would be annulled. Why? What's Choshen Mishpat? All the laws, all financial laws. There's no financial laws. Everyone's just giving each other. You just give in. There's a fight, there's a question between two people. You owe me money, and I say I don't. There's no such thing. You say I owe you money, I just give it to you. Finished. There's no question. There's no Rav, there's no Din Torah, there's no Choshen Mishpat. If the Torah put a Mishpatim, if there is such a thing as financial law, it means there are laws. Yeah? If I find something in the street, I want to give it back, I have to give it back. Yeah?
But there is no.
And just a minute. So therefore, the laws of how to, and therefore, if the Torah says, that you have to be careful not to speak Lashon Hara. So why do you need laws? Never ever say anything evil your whole life and finished. Nothing critical, never criticize anyone in the whole world. Finished. So why? So you don't need anything. And therefore came the Horovitz and said, no, you must speak, but according to the Torah. There are laws governing how to talk. There are laws governing how to get angry. There are laws governing how to love and not love. There are all laws. But obviously these laws should be governed by Hashem and not by your bad character traits. How do you know if you're using the Torah as a shield for your bad midas or not? You have to work on your bad midas. And how do you act what the Torah says? That's exactly what the Horovitz meant, yes.
But there is no good and there is no evil. It's only the mind that dictates it so.
Okay.
So how can that be so? How do you know what's good and evil?
That's why we have halachas, tells you.
But your good and your evil is different to my good and evil, which is different, which is irrelevant to his doing. It's irrelevant to his good and evil.
Everything's relevant,
Everything's
you're right.
relevant.
Everything's
so
relative.
Therefore, his idea of what's good might be bad for you.
That's
I
true.
give you an answer, Hamas.
Yeah,
For the Arabs, they're freedom fighters. They're
Okay.
fighting for their freedom. But for us, they're just terrorists.
that's true.
So where's the truth? So there's no real truth.
We believe in Hashem, we believe in His Torah,
Torah.
and that the word of the Torah is the word of Hashem.
Right.
And therefore, everything can be found in the Torah. Not, by the way, not only Torah and mitzvahs. For example, this the Horovitz said once, and Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman used it against the Zionist movement. He said, there's all sorts of new movements in Eastern Europe in his time, before the Holocaust. And he writes once, he says, you know, many political leaders think, you know, we consult with the Torah when it comes to religious questions. Is it kosher meat? Is it not kosher meat? Can you do this on Shabbos or not? But how to act with the goyim? Let's say how to speak to the Russian government. What's that got to do with the Torah? How to do business? Says the Horovitz, no. The Torah is the word of Hashem in everything. For example, he gives an example. He says, if you want to know how to do business or how to invest your money, the Gemara says you should triple. A person should divide his money into 3 parts. One, he should invest in a field that grows things. One, he should hide, and one, he should use for living on. 1/3. It gives you advice how to invest. It gives you advice on every part. Everything in life is there. There is no such thing as a Yid who knows Torah who has a question. What's good and what's bad? Everything is written.
Yeah, but
And that's the word of Hashem. So there's no suffix.
But the rabbi is in conflict. Always in conflict. One rabbi says this, one rabbi says
That's why
that.
it says in Pirkei Avot, "Aseh lecha rab yistalek min hasafek." Make yourself a teacher, a rab, and then you won't have any doubts. It's in Pirkei Avot. It's not today. 2,000 years ago it was written.
But a law that's always in contradiction, a law is always in contradiction, is impossible to impose. And if you can't impose the law, then there's no law.
Which law can't you impose?
Well, you're a rabbi. I'll ask a rabbi a question.
Yes.
Where should I live? Should I live in Israel or should I live in the Golut?
Who's your rabbi in everything? Not once in a...
Your father.
Ask him.
I asked him, I didn't get a proper answer.
So tell him
But
you need to
listen,
know.
He said, or your father said many times, that you should go the Rove decide. If the Rove do like this, you should do like this.
Yeah.
So Rove of the Jews live in the Golut. So maybe we should all go and live in the Golut.
That was his answer to you, maybe.
So we should all go and live in the Golut.
Okay.
So
It could be. Every person is a different situation. I know that Reb Chaim Kanievsky was probably one of the greatest Jews alive today. Some people ask him these types of questions. He gives a very clear-cut answer. He says, come here. Come to Yerushalayim. Or go and live in Bet Shemesh. Or go and live in New York. He gives you a direct answer. It's a big responsibility to give such an answer to a person. And obviously, you have to believe in that person's answer totally. And you can't say, listen, I'm coming to get your advice and maybe I'll listen to you. You have to take upon yourself the total belief that what that person says is the Torah's word, and then you'll have atzlocha in the answer.
But what is the Torah's word?
That is the
In
Torah's
the Mishnah
word
it
means.
says, should you eat an egg that's laid on Yom Tov?
Yeah.
Or shouldn't you eat an egg that's laid on Yom Tov?
We paskin like
Beit Shammai says there.
So we paskin like one of them. That's
I don't agree. I'm from Beit Shammai. 200 years we've been
You
eating
don't
eggs
agree,
of a
so-
lab, eggs They've been like
If you go like Beis Shammai, you have to go like Beis Shammai in everything.
So why should I suddenly stop?
That's your problem. You don't agree. You are bigger than all these rabbis.
No. Okay, you can choose Beis Shammai, but follow in everything Beis Shammai.
Look,
You can't
I asked
choose.
you a question several years ago.
Yeah.
I come from England, I keep 3 hours between milk and meat.
Yeah.
I come to here, and I asked the question, how many hours should I keep between milk and meat?
Okay.
I haven't found the answer yet.
Because
You told me
You
you
have to
keep 5.5 hours.
I do.
You told me your wife keeps 3 hours.
Yes.
So what I have to do, where's the Torah?
Let me explain to
So I
you.
have to make my own mind
The
up.
Torah also, it's a democratic Torah. It also gives you, in many situations, the opportunity to wear a white shirt or a blue shirt, to cut your beard like this or like this, to wear this yarmulke. There's no law in the Torah you have to wear black yarmulke. You can wear green yarmulke. Not everything in life. The Torah also leaves places where you can have your own choice. You can paint your wall in your house pink or white. There's no law in the Torah what color your walls in your house should be. You know, we don't have to be so. I'm saying you're very black and white, and you tell me, listen, how can I know? Because with waiting for milk and meat, sometimes it's not black and white. It's not. In certain things it is. In certain things not. You have to also have common sense.
There's a student here that comes from Holland, he keeps 1 hour.
Very good. That's the minhag.
So what is
There are minhagim also.
He
There are
doesn't keep
also
1 hour.
minhagim. Yes, you have to.
Matija doesn't keep 1 hour. He keeps 6 hours.
Because he's here. But in Holland they do keep 1 hour.
No, he doesn't. He keeps 1 hour.
Really?
Or 2 hours, yeah.
You've stated about the people in the first and second temple were very holy.
Yeah.
By inference, therefore, succeeding generations are somewhat less. Yet, both temples were destroyed because of a lack, as I understand it, of respect and honor to one and another.
Exactly true.
Now, this is the most basic element
Sinat
of humanity.
Yeah.
So how do you say that the people were holy in the first and second if they were not?
They were not. That's it. So the point I learned in Chazal, that they were on a high level. On their level of holiness, they should have been even more loving to their neighbors, much higher, because it goes. If you're on that level, you should be. It's like the story with the Talmidim Rabbi Akiva. Shalekibtu zezeh. That means, for those people that were the transmitters of Torah in the time of Rabbi Akiva, his Talmidim, they should have respected their fellow man so much that they were punished on things that today wouldn't even be punishable. So
That would
because
be,
of the high level,
opposite. So
because
that
of the high
would,
level,
So that would be a mitzvah.
It was just lip service and
That's
not
what it's-
truly to the heart.
that's what- in
and
time of
therefore
Yishayahu.
they disregarded their fellow man.
well, it's Churban Bayis Rishon was because of the 3 Averas, and Churban Bayis Sheni is Sinas Chinom. The second temple because of Sinas Chinom. The first temple was the 3 major crimes. The 3 major.
Yet both were destroyed.
Yeah, but both temples were destroyed. The first one for the 3 primal Averas. The second one for Sinas Chinom.
So how are they on such a high?
They're on a high level
Say.
of service of Hashem. It didn't come
It didn't relate
together.
to their fellow man.
exactly. It didn't come together with the high level also in that. It didn't go together. That's the pshat. That's what he says.
No.
Like they were professors in maths, but they were in grade 1 in.
Could be. Yeah. Or grade 2 even, but not on the
It's
same
They're
level.
idiots,
All right,
savants.
okay. It
That's-
says,
savants.
you know,
They're just savants.
take care of the widow, the orphan,
Yeah.
do justice.
Wasn't
That's the
on that-
basic
Yeah.
element of Judaism.
Exactly. But after
So
the
the rest is
Rafa
just
Kamoicha. Yeah.
superfluous.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to wish you all that Mashiach should come quickly, speedily, and as we learned in a certain place in Gemara, Kiddushin, that when Eliyahu Hanavi comes, when Mashiach comes, all the sfeikus will be cleared, all the doubts in life will be answered. Ein simcha katos hasfeikus. There'll be no sfeikus left. There'll be no doubts in life. And that's precisely what the Geula means. The redemption. The final redemption, that there's no place of doubt. There's no place of sofek. And life is clear. always there, that the knowledge of Hashem is so great, which means the Torah is so clear to everyone, there's no doubt. That's what we're waiting for. That's what we're davening for.
Okay,
Yeah. Matzloch.
יישר כוח.
that's the way it is.
Yeah. Shkoyach.